we have a chance to either gain everything or lose everything. And that the race actually has gone down to two, as a two-man race. And now we want to align ourselves with the candidate that best suit our political ideology. And we have realized that Mr. Barrow actually never had the best of opportunities in which to carry out his reform agenda. And as a result, we believe that he should be given an extra opportunity to finish that job.
Mamadi K.S. Kamara also failed in his nomination bid after he was disqualified by the Independent Electoral Commission. However, the veteran civil servant is not hanging his political boots for now and has promised to undertake a silent political campaign to mobilize support for President Barrow.
My politicking is going to be a civilized one and a silent one. Okay? But 2 months cannot do anything to election. The coalition has done good for the citizenry.
For Ibrahim Tabora Mane, negotiations are still ongoing with the president's camp following a lengthy meeting with the NPP leader. The former independent candidate is hopeful that the two sides can reach an agreement for him to join the president.
Discussions are ongoing. It's a courtesy visit. It's my brother. Yes. We came, we discussed, and there'll be follow-up discussions. Once it's concluded, you guys will be in the picture. You will know. There are a few things that we have to straighten out and agree on. Once those are sorted, you will let you know.
These political developments have been warmly received by the National People's Party, with the deputy spokesman Sidin Jai describing it as a game changer.
This is a game over for all Gambians and all peace-loving Gambians. That His Excellency the President and the National People's Party and our partners are set to win with a huge majority come December 4th, 2021. And this shows the level of support President Adama Barrow continues to enjoy at the grassroots level. Because politics is all about numbers. And once you are in a country and you know you live with the people, from town halls to the villages to the street, commercial vehicles to the pantabas, you will sound the opinion. That's what we call opinion polls. Everywhere you go in this country, people are telling you they're going to vote for President Adama Barrow.
Meanwhile, the president also received in audience a delegation of imams at the State House who pledged loyalty to him and his party. They were led by Mustafa Loom and comprised several prominent Islamic scholars and youths.
First of all, we are Gambians. We are Muslims, we are youths. And, you know, when there's a process in the country, you have to look at it analytically and take a position. So we are currently in elections. And there were many candidates. We did our comparative studies and analysis. And we saw that the incumbent, which is the current President Adama Barrow, is most responsive to our needs in terms of Muslims and Islam.
The imams took turns to praise President Barrow for his adherence to Islamic religious teachings and his commitment to the development and propagation of Islam. They all promised to use their influence to mobilize support for the president ahead of the election, whilst also praying for his re-election for another 5-year mandate. The delegation of prominent GDC supporters who defected to the MPP also formally met the president. They were led by Cherno Alpha Ali, a prominent GDC mobilizer in the Central River region. His defection is seen as a major coup for the NPP, particularly at a time when Gambians are going to the polls early next month. Cherno Ali said his defection came after carefully weighing his political options, which convinced him that President Barrow is the ideal candidate to develop the country. He was accompanied by Fatou Ba, who also claimed to have over 500 supporters all ready to vote for President Barrow. President Barrow thanked the imams and defectors for making the wise political decisions, saying this will bolster his chances of winning the election. He promised to double the subvention given to the Supreme Islamic Council if re-elected, whilst also continuing to champion more developments to improve the lives of Gambians. To the defectors, President Barrow urged them to continue the advocacy to bring in as many people as possible to the NPP party, as it has opened its doors to all Gambians. A vote for Kande is a vote for the UDP, Barrow told his newest supporters, urging all Gambians to prevent an opposition victory on December 4th. Mamadou Jallow, GRTS News.
Well, still on the president's engagements at the State House as the United States ambassador to the Gambia, His Excellency Richard Carl Pascal paid a courtesy call on the president, His Excellency Adama Barrow, to discuss development issues as the country prepares for the December presidential elections. Take a listen.
With His Excellency the President of the Gambia regarding matters of mutual concern surrounding U.S. support and assistance to the Gambia and seeking to achieve the aspirations of the Gambian people. We discussed the Millennium Challenge Corporation Threshold Program, which is pending, as well as the recently concluded bilateral development agreement with the U.S. Agency for International Development. It was a very good discussion, sharing perspectives on different aspects of our bilateral relationship, which remains strong. The President was very actively engaged. He certainly asked very targeted and focused questions, and we have some homework that he asked us to follow up on some things, so we'll come back with some answers to some questions that he had. This is extensive and substantial support from the United States government, specifically with regard to the Millennium Challenge Corporation. It's a $25 million threshold program in support of the Gambia's strategy and plans for electrification, for the generation and delivery of electricity, which is a significant constraint to economic growth. And so obviously being able to deliver reliable electricity around the country will assist business people and individuals conduct business and facilitate the establishment and operation of businesses.
His Excellency Richard Carl Pascal, the United States ambassador to the Gambia, shortly after having a closed-door meeting with the Gambian leader, His Excellency President Adama Barrow. Well, we now shift our attention to some development news and head to the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center in Bijilo, where the draft tourism policy and strategy is under review. The 10-year document developed to guide the operations of the tourism sector from 2021 to 2031 is presided over by the Minister of Tourism and Culture, Hamad Ba. And as Ibrahim Ajala reports, the tourism minister and stakeholders are set to transition from policy intent to action in the two-day review process.
The policy and strategy document for the next 10 years has been developed. Stakeholders gathered for a review and validation of the document. Kodu Jabam, Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, described the document as a product of inclusive ideas from relevant stakeholders for sustainable tourism development in the Gambia.
The idea was to ensure that the final document embodies the true aspiration of the Gambian people in their pursuit to reposition, augment, and amplify the impact of the coveted tourism sector. At this juncture, I am pleased to highlight that the Tourism Diagnostic Assessment Report and the draft policy are all embracing in terms of the profundity and the range of issues tackled to inform and give us all a better perspective on key and challenging issues.
Francis Njai is the chairperson of the Gambia Hotel Association. He thanked the Gambia government for supporting the hotel industry amid the COVID-19. He, however, urged government to increase investment in the tourism sector for greater success.
That this is the first time in over 20 years that a government should sympathize to the tourism sector. The development of this national tourism policy and strategy is indeed apt and welcomed by the stakeholders. After having gone through the draft national tourism policy and strategy document, I am excited to say that the document is indeed inclusive, exhaustive, and extensive, since it covers different facets of the tourism sector, summed up as follows: highlighting existing problem areas, identifying new and proper measures to adopt, and implementing, monitoring, and evaluating of progress made.
Economist Abdullah Jane from the UNDP Banjul office joined the forum via Zoom. He said tourism remains a productive sector of the economy and a major employer, hence the need for a tourism policy. The Minister of Tourism and Culture, Hamad Ba, said his ministry saw the need to develop a new policy through inclusive consultation to chart a way forward.
Tourism is indeed a vital pillar of the national economy in terms of wealth creation, employment generation, the creation of substantial entrepreneurial opportunities, and is positioned in the forefront of overall efforts to ensure sustainable development as enshrined in the National Development Plan. It is against this background that the need has been felt to to formulate a new tourism policy and strategy with a view to repositioning the tourism sector, taking cognizance of local, regional, and global trends, and by extension, the various dynamics impacting on tourism.
Minister Ba called for patriotism and nationalism among Gambians to portray a good image of the country in a bid to attract tourists. He disclosed that the air route between the Gambia and Senegal has been domesticated and that Gambians should use the opportunity to invest in the air transport business.
We need to protect our country and our destination. We cannot use the social media to destroy our country. We have to use the social media and develop our country and make good of our country. Doing bad does not help anyone in your country. When you are doing good, you are doing it for your country. And let's avoid bad publicity for this industry and our country at large.
This is the latest tourism policy and strategy document for the Gambia. It is designed to better promote tourism and its contribution to economic growth of the country. The Ministry of Tourism through the Gambia Tourism Board is expanding market for the industry, boasting of quality services and beautiful nature of the smiling coast. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
Well, still on tourism-related matters, the 2021 tourism season gets off to a grand start, with hundreds of holidaymakers jetting into the smiling coast to enjoy its unique delights in what appears to be a fresh winter break. Scores of European tourists arrived last week alongside several flights from the United Kingdom. Global Tourism Group, TUI, also made its maiden flight to the Gambia on Sunday, landing at the Banjul International Airport with 184 passengers on board. 20 months of the global pandemic has badly affected the tourism sector, halting travel across the world. On the new protocols, vaccinated tourists can enter without a PCR test, and those unvaccinated can do a PCR at the airport upon arrival. Traditional flights such as Corendon Airline have also started flying to the Smiling Coast, with the operators scheduled to make twice weekly landings. And now, the 26th edition of the Conference of Parties on Climate Change, COP26, has continued in Glasgow, Scotland. The Gambian delegation, led by Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure, is among over 40 participants taking part in the various forums and dialogues ongoing at the world's last hope of settling for zero emissions by 2050. And as by Ibrahim Cham reports, the Gambian delegation is looking into climate action for improved socio-economic development.
A larger and more diverse Gambian delegation of climate experts from various sectors of government are in Glasgow at the COP26 Climate Change Summit. The Gambian government's achievement of the best NDC worldwide has put extra weight of expectations on the delegates as they embark on the most important task of implementing the ambitious NDC. Alpha Jallo, the UNFCCC focal point in the Gambia, held a closed-door meeting with the Gambian delegates to orient the climate experts on the approach to be taken on its various agendas, negotiations and bilateral talks.
Each delegation should try to have some outreach with partners, with organizations, and then hopefully if they can get opportunities for funding, because what we need is support for the NDC implementation. We have it in a paper. It's a blueprint. It is appreciated, uploaded, but we need to implement it, and implementing it we need support.
Mariamandao Jaju is a young climate negotiator and project coordinator. She focuses on how climate change affects certain genders, primarily women.
Because COP is completely different from other international meetings. It's so technical and it's usually a continuation of a process that started long ago. So basically, if you really want to understand how the process is going, you need to follow those who have been in the system for a long time. So basically, for me, I'm following gender, even though I'm kind of new, but as a young negotiator, I'm also learning from those experts like Nefa Tugay, who has been in this area for a long time.
The task at hand for the Gambia doesn't only lie on the shoulders of the government officials. Civil society actors are playing a significant role in pushing for better commitments on reducing the global and individual carbon footprints. At the Glasgow Climate Summit, global leaders are being pressured to collectively reduce their carbon footprints and gradually transition to greener economies. However, civil society groups believe that the progress is actually too slow. One group called Civic has initiated the Great Green Wall, described as an African-led movement with an epic ambition to grow an 8,000-kilometer natural climate-smart economy as a stretch of green ecosystems across the entire width of Africa. Kemo Fati is the country representative for the Great Green Wall project in the Gambia, aiming to build a barrier that will hold back the encroaching Sahara Desert into the tropical regions.
And of course, our core platforms that we are looking at is power, money, models, stories, and movement. This is the 5 models that we've built around this Great Green Wall. Power, in a sense, a series of citizens' assembly as a continent-wide mission to shape political decision and galvanize citizens' agency with an initial pilot in the Gambia.
Dr. Malanding Jete of the Large Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Project was invited to share how his project has a similar ambition.
Very early on, we engaged communities, and what we called protocol development was meant to really tease out what their understanding of their situation is in terms of climate as well as ecosystem services and needs.
Co-organized by the UNDP, the UNFCCC and UNEP, the Gambia's director of CPCU at the Environment Ministry, Babka Zedi Jallo, attended a roundtable meeting on the theme Strengthening NDC Ambition Through Circular Economies. This is part of an overall project to co-develop and pilot a guidance toolkit for countries to integrate and implement circular economy measures into their national determined contributions and long-term strategies.
When we started this analysis, we found out that there's been quite a few initiatives that have been ongoing. For example, we've had support from IFAD working through the Ministry of Agriculture, where they've developed a Gambia National Agricultural Investment Program, which seeks to involve the private sector more readily in processing of agricultural produce.
With a common mission of forming a synergy among all sectors of government, primarily for the preservation of ecosystems and the transition to climate-smart economies, the Gambian delegation awaits the arrival of the Vice President and the Minister of Finance and Environment, ahead of more intense negotiations and an approach of galvanizing support for the implementation of its revised NDC. Reporting for GRTS News in Glasgow, UK, I'm by Ibrahim Cham.
And now a government delegation led by the Director General of the State Intelligence Agency has embarked on a nationwide tour to various regions of the country. The trip is meant to provide the head of the Gambia's Intelligence Service and delegation the opportunity to meet and discuss with community leaders and regional authorities on issues bordering peace and security. The delegation will also use the tour to assess the current security situation of the country. Director General Usman Sow explains the importance of his tour in this excerpt. Take a listen.
For the purpose of this visit, it's again to go and assess, interact, meet, discuss, consult, coordinate with almost everyone across the country, all stakeholders. We've said it here and we say it in many of our forums, that security is everybody's business. We may have the national responsibility or the accountabilities, but in the end it's everybody's business. And that's been our approach to it. We've involved everyone to take business, security as everybody's business. So in this tour, we intend to meet stakeholders, regional administrators, governors, visit communities, interact with them. And it's going across the country from Bara to Fatoto. We'll start with the north and come back by the south.
How critical is this in our peace-building efforts?
Very critical. It's indeed very critical. I mean, as we said, security is everybody's business. And we need to be seen to be interacting with people. And people must also own the security business and contribute to it. So seeing us at close range, talking with us, hearing them, you see, we may have the concept at the office, but the people in the field also matter. They know where it matters. I remember in a previous interaction we had in Kerawan, one of the chiefs said, okay, this is your rollout because we have this National Security Belt Initiative, which is to repeat our deployments across the country and across the borders. And he was saying, we think you should come this place instead of that place. So going now and meeting the people, those who really are the recipients of security itself, and hearing from them, I think is quite critical. Again, at this time of our transition of the last 5 years, it's important to feel the pulse. I mean, we are going through a period that was unprecedented, or is unprecedented. We have elections coming just in 4 weeks, 3 weeks from now at most. We need to fill the ports and assess the state of security across the country. So very critical.
The last time you went, you came back and we had the general assessment. How do you assess the general situation in the country?
I think generally the situation is calm. There is no cause for undue alarm. That's our assessment. No cause for undue alarm. Of course, security continues to be vigilant. Elections is a security event. No gainsaying in that. But generally the situation is calm, and I think the Gambia is ready to have a peaceful election. Of course, in an environment of restraint, measuredness, tolerance, open-mindedness. I think that will help the security environment much more. But yes, I think it's calm and it's quiet.
What would be your message to the public?
Well, my message to the public is, I think at the beginning, as I said, we want to use this medium to thank the public. The SIS, everyone has witnessed where it came from and where we are today. We have come out of the woods. We've done the turn, and we are committed to the reforms, the restructuring, the repositioning of the service in the interest of the public. And we want to continue calling on the public to take security as also their business. It matters to all of us. It's a need. All of us need security. And I think what we are seeing in the Gambia, really, with all the proliferations of political activities, really this is also a testimony to the security environment we have.
That was the Director General of the State Intelligence Services, Usman Solvaya, urging Gambians to continue to nurture the gains registered during the past 5 years. They're speaking to Grts's Babakar Senghor. And now, officials of the Early Childhood and Inclusive Education Program under the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to desensitize students at St. John's School for the Deaf and Govi in Canifing. The forum is financed by the International Development Research Center with the aim to providing a comprehensive health education for adolescents with hearing and visual impairment. Usman Balde Alia prepared this report, read by Usman Mane.
The forum aims to design and implement relevant school and community-based programs that include teacher and community-based training on sexuality education. The principal investigator on comprehensive health education, Madam Fibian Inagran Sanyan's deliberation on reproductive health matters serve as an eye-opener for most of these adolescents.
We are teaching you to acquire knowledge and skills, but not to go and use it until you are safe to use it. But if you are sexually active, what we always tell to sexually active young ladies and men is to use the barrier method. So all of those hormones, if at all you are using the injection, the implant, the IUD, the pills, if you use them, there are chances for you not to become pregnant. But there are no chances for you not to acquire sexually transmitted diseases.
Anna Nancy Mendy, the Director of Early Childhood and Inclusive Education, acknowledged that comprehensive health education is a right-based approach for every young person. She was quick to add that young girls don't know much about their menstruation, urging parents to educate their children about menstruation.
The Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education have done a research on health, on comprehensive sexual education, and the research findings were shared with students in the Greater Banjul area, that is Region 1. So we felt students with special needs also are children in the Greater Banjul area, and they have a right to information just like any other child. So that is why we have took up this initiative to share the findings with not just those that don't have special needs, but those with special needs also. We're sharing the information with them.
Mrs. Mami Mendimane, a teacher at St. John's School for the Deaf, and Aissatou Cisse, a student of the said school, both expressed appreciation for the initiative.
Definitely, they are all very surprised because some of them is the first time they've been introduced to such a topic, which they are all interested and willing to learn. So they've learned so many things today, especially on the family life planning, the materials that are introduced to them. all of them, they are surprised and they are willing to see the lady come back here to give them more skills.
The school-based health education seeks to help adolescents acquire functional health knowledge and strengthens attitude, beliefs, and practice skills needed to adopt and maintain healthy behaviors throughout their lives. Usman Mane, GRTS.
And now to a press release from the government spokesperson Ibrahim Sankara, and it reads, the Gambia Drug Law Enforcement Agency refutes Senegalese journalist Pape Ali Nyang's bogus allegations of complicity in the 2 tons and 26 kilograms of cocaine seized by the Senegalese authorities on the 17th of October. Contrary to Nyang's false narrative, on the 18th of October 2021, our Senegalese counterparts in the fight against illicit drugs shared information with their Gambian counterparts based on the existing Memorandum of Understanding among DLEAG, Authorities of Senegal, and Policia Judiciaria de Guinea-Bissau. An investigation was immediately opened to locate one Mr. Mohamed Abdallah, the suspected organizer of a consignment. A guest house where Mr. Abdallah allegedly lodged was raided and thoroughly searched with no traces of either Abdallah or his associates. The release continued that the guest house manager confirmed that Abdallah and 2 others left the Gambia in the early hours of 18th October 2021. In our continuing investigation, the proprietor of Torodo Fishing Company, the local Gambian agent handling the registration of the boat named La Rosa, was invited for questioning on the 21st of October 2021. According to the agent, Mr. Abdallah deceived him into believing that he wanted to use the boat for leisure river transport targeting mainly tourists. Before the documentation of the said boat was completed, Mr. Abdullah authorized the Captain Fode Mara, a Sierra Leonean national, to navigate the boat without prior notification of the agent. Therefore, Senegalese journalist Pape Ali Nyang's claims that a senior Gambian personality supervised the boat maintenance is meritless and not true. On Saturday, 31st October 2021, both anti-drug authorities in the Gambia, Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau had a virtual meeting to share information and strategize on this matter, and the way forward, the release concludes. And in other news, across provincial Gambia, African Women's Network for Community Management of Forest and Agriculture over the weekend organized a 2-day General Congress. The convergence held in Pakalinding in the Lower River region is the first regional Congress of its kind since the establishment of the organization in 2017. The forum also discussed issues affecting women farmers and elected a new executive. Alajimbai tells us more.
This is the first General Congress since the establishment of RIFACOF 5 years ago. Supported by FAO through the Forest and Farm Facility, the convergence discussed the financial and activity report of the association and elected a new executive. The president of the National Farmers Platform, Sirifo Bojang, said the association is crucial in promoting the welfare of women in community forest management and agriculture.
RIVACOF is a French acronym. It is Women in Community Forest Management across Africa. It is a French acronym, and it is geared to bring in women together to be able to manage their own forestries at community level. So the association has been here for a while, and they are due for Congress this year. So this is why the umbrella body, that is the National Farmers Platform, has decided to get funding from FAO through the FFF to take them to Congress today in order to select new members which will steer the affairs of the association.
Chernogay of the Department of Forestry, the line institution for RIFACOF, said the organization will support his department to make informed policy decisions that will empower women in forest and farm management.
It's very important because when you talk of either agriculture or forest management,
women are very important. You know that their participation is key, especially in terms of forest resource management. In terms of bushfire protection, they play a key role in terms of tree planting. But in terms of benefit sharing, normally they get very low benefit out of either their agricultural produce or the forest resources they are managing. So, but then coming up of the association is creating that awareness, you know, helping the association to have connection with policy makers, you know, bringing them together.
The president of RIFACOF, Antirohi Sise, highlighted numerous successes registered by the association, including training of members on tree nursery and agro-food processing. She assured members of the proper implementation of their strategic plan for the next 5 years. Kaniman Kamara of FFF, who spoke on behalf of FAO, and the treasurer of the National Farmers Platform, Alhaji Ibrahim Abiyai, both advised members to be committed to the association by paying their dues and supporting the executive in the implementation of their activities. Alhaji Mbai, GRTS News.
And in other news, teachers and students in the northern part of Central River region have also been receiving training on Safe School Declaration courtesy of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and UNICEF. Modula Mensane picks up the rest of that story.
Educative program by the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education teaching students and teachers on vital ethics. The special training is under the Safe School Declaration program, which is bankrolled by UNICEF with a view to creating safe environments for teachers and students at school.
It's very, very good that we have a safer school environment to enable children to be able to attend, because attendance has a close bearing with performance. If children don't attend to school regularly, they cannot perform. So it's very, very key that, you know, this safe school will improve attendance, it will improve retention, it will improve also completion rate. If you look at the mixed report, that is the multi-indicator cluster survey, which was initiated or conducted by UNICEF, you can see that CRR North has the largest or the highest number of out-of-school children, that is 40 out of 100.
Here at the Regional Education Directorate at the Central River Region North, like other places, teachers and students are receiving training on how to tackle bullying, ending sexual harassment and exploitation.
If you don't let them know what protection issues affect them. So what we did as facilitators of this entire program in both CRR South and North is to ensure that we allow the children, it was a participatory approach, we allow the children themselves to come up with the issue that they think is affecting them at the school, and also allow the teachers also to jointly work together with the students. And how do we ensure that we prevent some of these hazards, we may call them, within the school, so that at least the children can enjoy the learning environment that which is of course their right.
The crucial educative program also focuses on protecting the rights of students and creating space for people with disabilities.
After the training also, we'll be able to go back to our schools, sensitize our students, our co-teachers, parents, community members, in order to let them know that children also has their rights. And it is their rights to be educated, it is their right to be sheltered, have food, and all other basics needs that they need in their communities.
As the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and its partners move to educate more teachers and students on the importance of nurturing safe school environments, it is hoped that bullying and sexual harassment in schools will soon end. Mudlamin Sane reporting for GRTS News from the Central River region.
Well, from that report, we'll now go in for a short break. When we return, we'll take a look at some other news. Just stay with us. Welcome back to GRTS News. We shift attention to news beyond our shores in Afghanistan, where health facilities in parts of Afghanistan have shut down. In the capital Kabul, hospitals are functioning without electricity or water supply. The country suffers from a humanitarian crisis following the Taliban takeover and suspension of international aid. And elsewhere, a police officer was attacked in the southern French city of Cannes today by a man with a knife claiming to act in the name of the Prophet. The officer was unharmed, the Interior Minister says. Well, France 24 has details of that. We'll bring you more of those international stories in our subsequent news bulletin, and that brings us to the end of this edition of the 2200 Hours News on GRTS. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories once again. President Adolescent has received the endorsement of 4 presidential aspirants rejected by the Independent Electoral Commission ahead of the December 4th presidential polls. Tourism and Culture Minister Hamad Ba presides over the validation of the 2021 and 2030 draft tourism policy and strategy at the Sadauda Karabajara International Conference Center in Bijilom. The Director General of the State Intelligence Services, Usman Sow, has embarked on a nationwide tour looking into the country's peace and security situation. And in the internationals, Afghanistan enters a humanitarian crisis, shutting down health facilities in parts of the capital Kabul for lack of water. Well, that's it from me, Fatu Janimbai, and the entire news team. Many thanks for joining us, and good night.